This city is called Russia's capital of the Volga River.
We have the biggest river.
It has the biggest river in Europe.
The capital of sunsets, the cultural and historical capital, the capital of street art, the capital of Soviet cars.
Soviet Union choose Ford as car that we will repeat.
And even the capital of everything. Let's see if this city deserves any of these titles.
So in Russia we call it Yebenya.
We will make a visit inside of the Kremlin, try to find an American trail from the Soviet period when American engineers came here to build cars, and see what it's like to be a citizen of Nizhny Novgorod and to live here.
To find this out, I will spend the days with my friends from Nizhny Novgorod. Kostya, an urbanist, Alexander, historian, and Ira, the connoisseur of the city. They know almost everything about Nizhny Novgorod. For you guys, what is Nizhny Novgorod about?
About people.
About suffering.
About friends and fun.
Woo!
Just 4 hours on a train from Moscow and you're here, the Nizhnigorodskaya region. Nizhny Novgorod is one of the most ancient cities of Russia. It was founded in 1221. The name of the city literally means the lower new city, which was chosen to distinguish it from another Novgorod, Veliki Novgorod, the great new city, which is located in the northwest of Russia. Don't confuse these two. Locals from Nizhny Novgorod really hate when they're confused with locals from Veliki Novgorod.
Recently I had a phone call from tourists, and they said that they are waiting for me near the Kremlin, and we planned the meeting around the Kremlin, and I came at place and found anyone. I started to call the tourists, and they sent me the exact location of where they were, and they were at another city. They were at Veliki Novgorod, not at the Nizhny Novgorod.
Thousands kilometers away. By the way, guys, I need your help. YouTube added a feature of localization, which means that the platform automatically adds audio track to videos and anyone can watch a video in their native language. It's a really cool feature and I want to get it so that anyone can watch video conveniently for them, but only channels with more than 1 million subscribers can get this feature. Please help my channel grow, and you know what to do.
Originally the city was the famous trade center. There was one of the biggest European fairs where a lot of people from Asia and from Europe came, and that is because of the convenient location of the city.
As this is the place where one of the biggest rivers of Russia, Oka and Volga, meet together. You can see how the rivers merge from a place in the city named Strelka. There is also a nice view on the Kremlin from here. You didn't think that there is only one Kremlin in Russia, in Moscow, right? No, there are many, and 12 of them survived till our days. Kremlin is an ancient fort, and in Nizhny Novgorod it's the most open one in Russia. You can freely walk in the Kremlin and even on its walls. Can you imagine this in Moscow? Absolutely not.
The city was founded at 1221 as the border city of the state. Firstly, there was built the wooden fortress, and then it was rebuilt in stone due to the adhering of guns and cannons. It had two purposes. Firstly, it was the defense, and secondly, it was the fortress for conquering new land. There was cannons.
There were cannons?
These windows are the part of the defense conquering system. There were cannons, and there was big shields that closed this window, and when the defenders of this Kremlin shot out the windows, they lifted these shields and shot the guns and cannons.
probably only in Russia you can see kids playing on tanks.
This Kremlin has the biggest Italian influence among all the Kremlins in Russia, because the architect of this Kremlin was the Italian, and we may see a lot of architectural details on this tower and on the walls that connected with Italian. You'll see the upper part of this Kremlin is called dovetails. The dovetails is the symbol of the Holy Roman Empire, and when the Italians came into Russia, they transfer this symbol on our Kremlins, on our fortresses, but without any symbolism, just out of habit.
By the Kremlin there is one of the main symbols of the city, Chkalovskaya stairs. Let's go up.
Let's go.
And on the top of the stairs there is a monument devoted to Valery Chkalov, a Soviet pilot and my hero. He was the first ever pilot to make a non-stop flight from Moscow through the North Pole to Vancouver in the US. By the way, soon I'm also heading not to the North Pole but to a very remote island in the Arctic, so stay tuned.
There are several dots on this monument, and when this monument was built, there was a phrase, the Stalin's Falcon, because Chkalov was loved by the Stalin and it was the propaganda of the 30s. But after the Stalin died, these letters and this phrase was removed. Russian marshrutka.
I think it's time for a break.
Yeah, let's go grab some coffee. This place used to be transformer substation for electricity, and now this is the coffee shop.
By the way, this coffee shop was opened by a Russian Orthodox church, and here you can even see the process of icon painting.
And we drink here the Russian traditional drink called zbitin. It consists with honey and herbs.
How is it?
Well, it's tasty.
It was tasty. And where else could you visit a coffee shop that was opened by a collaboration of a church and electricity transformer substation? So far, Nizhny Novgorod keeps surprising me and looks like such an interesting city full of history. Now, let's continue to explore Nizhny with Kostya. Kostya is an urbanist and he likes to criticize and complain about everything.
This is a terrible city with pretty nice downtown, I would say.
Well, that's exactly what I need to make a complete impression of the city.
Bonjour.
Kostya, what do you think about city planning of Nizhny Novgorod?
Let's see. I'm gonna show you. So let's start our journey here. This is Central Bank. This building was built in 1913 in honor of 300 years anniversary of Romanov's dynasty. 5 years later, the whole family will be killed. So keep that in mind. Vamos, cabrones. As you can see, we have street art in Russia, in Nizhny Novgorod especially. We have more street art than Moscow, I think, or St. Petersburg. And I'm going to show you the difference between street art and just a drawing on the wall, maybe in 5 minutes. Who said that we don't have IKEA in Russia? We do, look at that. So this is street art. As you can see, there are different paintings on the wall. Different people made it. Something is ugly, I think. Some of them are pretty nice, but it all has sense and it's spontaneous. Nobody asked them to paint it. But when you согласовываете your art, when your art is approved by authorities, I think there is no longer street art.
There is no bicycle trail. Where is the bicycle trail?
I mean, we've never had it. Yeah, you have to make a decision all the time to ride on the sidewalk and to fight with pedestrians or to die on the road. So usually I prefer dying on the road, but as you can see, I'm still here. So here is Mr. Gorky. He's quite famous in Russia or in the world. So it's not street art, I think. I believe it's just a drawing, because when authority order your work, I mean, it's not a street art. This building is pretty nice, I think, for Nizhny Novgorod. I mean, if you're from Amsterdam or Vienna, probably you will say that this is shit or something like that, or just a regular building. But for us, it's a good level of architecture.
А почему она открыта? Почему через забор прошли? Давайте я вызову сейчас полицию.
Давайте я выйду, если захочу. Вы повежливее говорите.
All I can say about cycling in Nizhny Novgorod that it's very extreme and kind of stressful. А где бы вы больше хотели жить, вот в этом или в том доме?
Чего? Я не слышу. И я не слышу, я глухая.
Вы бы хотели больше жить вот в этом или в том доме?
Тут, конечно. А вы что, не здешние, что ли? Я не здешняя. Я землячка Ломоносова, я здесь ничего не знаю. Бабки столетние уже, мы ничего не знаем.
А вам нравится Нижний Новгород?
Да, раньше, когда я училась в школе, видела на карте Горький. Но я не так давно здесь живу, потому что я землячка Ломоносова. А где Ломоносов родился?
Москва?
В Архангельской области.
А как вас сюда занесло?
Дочка привезла меня сюда. Замуж вышла, здесь живу. А у вас где? Мама, папа тут?
Тут, все тут.
А дедушка, бабушка?
Все уж померли давно.
Почему так рано?
Ну как, бабка 84 года была, померла. Молодая, да, была?
Молодая. Все, кто моложе меня, все молодые. А мне уже летом будет 89.
Ну, дай бог даст вам дожить.
Ой, как вы мне нравитесь оба. Какая прелесть.
This nice lady mentioned that when she was young, on a map she saw a city Gorky. That used to be the name of Nizhny Novgorod during the Soviet period. It was named after a Soviet writer and socialism proponent Maxim Gorky, who was born here. In the USSR, Gorky, or Nizhny Novgorod, turned into an important industrial center. In particular, the Gorky Automobile Plant was constructed in this period, and internationally, the city was even given the nickname the Russian Detroit.
We still produce the new version of this car, and it was very good car because it was between private car and cargo, and the hard period of 19th when the capitalism starts. It was occasionally extra very super good to have a small cargo. For example, me and Ellie, we could buy 2 cargos to organize our criminal business. So Soviet Union choose Ford as the car that we will repeat, and for $30 million, Soviet industry, Soviet diplomat, there were no diplomatic relationship between Soviet Union and America. It was very hard to make this contract. For $30 million, they bought 1,000 of complete, so details for 1,000 car, and the right to repeat the technology to produce this car. Ford, yeah. Firstly, Austrian company that built the factory as a building came.
And then engineers from Ford came from the US to Nizhny Novgorod to organize the production of cars in the factory. And Ira knows the exact place where they lived. So let's try to find the American village. Oh, that's how we're looking for an American trail.
here, to the bank of Volga River. We invited Americans, exactly those who built fort in the Detroit city. So firstly they built a car factory in Detroit, and then we appreciate their experience, say, yeah, good car factory, welcome place to repeat here in Nizhny Novgorod. And here, exactly here was built the American town of barrack. We respect American engineers very well. That's why we built for them the barracks of high quality, the luxury barracks.
In America, in 1930s, the Great Depression was raging, and the contract with the Soviet Union for the construction of the plant was mutually beneficial. The architectural project was completed in Cleveland. Meanwhile, in Nizhny Novgorod, warehouses, residential buildings, and the utility structures were planned on site. The Nizhny Novgorod Automobile Plant was created in only 18 months and went into operation on January 1st, 1932. A whole city grew up on a vacant lot near the village of Monastery. Later, the village of American specialists received the name the American Village. We looked for some remnants, but today there is only some rubbish and fishermen. So we were told that we are on the territory where we're not supposed to be because it's a territory of the factory, and the guardsman called the police and told them to detain us, and now we are trying to find some car.
Что здесь за секретное производство такое?
Нет, просто работает.
Вы не собираетесь отсюда выезжать? Я просто боюсь, что нас на охране там не выпустят.
Да почему? Выходите, да и все.
Ну, мы там встретились с охранником, который сказал, задержите этих двух.
And they will hide us in the car and get us out of this territory.
Вас до сюда висит или дальше?
Ну,
А вы куда едете?
мы проехали уже охрану?
Еду.
Выведите нас куда-нибудь поближе к цивилизации.
Сейчас такая сложная обстановка в стране.
Ой, девочки!
Мало ли кто что с ним видит,
Девочки
девочки.
пришли! Угроза вообще национальной безопасности!
Ну а кто знает? Просто сейчас переживают, кто в охране сидит, наверное.
Мы вот тоже немножко переживаем.
Такие времена, Ира, в стране.
Такие времена, такие времена.
Mission accomplished! We're not detained! After all, we did find one building left from the American village. It's Banya, a bathhouse where Americans used to go. But now it's a car repairman service here. In addition to the village for American specialists, construction of a new city for workers of the plant began, which later became known as Sotsgorod.
Socialistic city, big city, that means communal city with house with private room for a living and with all function organized like in communism. And it is 60 absolutely the same houses that was previously communal house, that means a corridor system with rooms.
It's like a dorm.
Like dormitory, because in Russian it is коммуна, but коммуналка. And общежитие is absolutely difficult. What is the difference between a communal house and a dormitory? The ideology. In the communal house, you are live for communism. Communal city consists of different zones for every function. The residential zone, zone of social object, zone of school, and now we are on the zone of social object. It is a social line that consists of hospital, shopping center, then banya, then fire station, then kitchen factory, and then factory of the bread. So all the objects are on the same line. Big cinema house was built in 1937. What cinema they can see at those time. My grandfather told me that when he was young, cinema men came to the village, choose the biggest house and invite young boys to see the film about cars. And it was a film about car factory. It was propaganda for invite young boys to work in car factory. And they did. When, for example, they were 14, they came to car factory and say that I'm 16, I'm already old for being worker.
Вы из коллекторской компании, что ли? Пошли, поехали. Садись.
We are sitting on the street that is named Street of People Construction. It is the method of construction the houses by the people. But what the idea is, it is a strange idea. In the end of 50s, was all the country and all the Soviet Union was a crisis. There were not enough houses. It was before Khrushchevka was invented. Khrushchevka was invented in Nizhny Novgorod region. We are the capital of Khrushchevka. So the official story is about GAZ, Gorky Automobile factory, that one of the workers say, guys, colleagues, let's build our house by ourselves. I remember that in those time it was no private property and you can't build your house by yourself. You can only get it for free from the government. Strange Russian. They even don't close the door. Wow, they even decorated the post box. This is wooden, but the building made of big bricks produced as a recycling technology from rubbish, from any trash from the factory. It was cheaper. They built a small factory for producing these special blocks. It's called Schlaka block, like trash block space.
Это, по-моему, 58-го года дом. Это надо вам спросить Нину Павловну. Она прям у нас самый-самый долгожитель.
Factory gives you the space, the empty space, the project, and some bricks. And you built it by yourself. After the work, on their free time, people built this house. It was called Gorkovsky method because it was invented here in Gorky City.
Ira told me many more curious stories like that and took me to parts of the city that few tourists ever get to see. Ira is the best connoisseur of Nizhny Novgorod and she has a project named City Expeditions. City Expeditions is a creative research project and unusual tours where each route is a scientific study or a work of art. You can also explore Nizhny Novgorod with Ira and her team. Just message her on Instagram. I will leave all the links in the description. Also, I have a tradition on my channel to hide matryoshka dolls in places that I go to. Inside the doll there is a note from me and 500 rubles. The first person to book a tour with Ira will get the doll.
We should be just a normal city. I think this...
Yeah, not normal city. We've passed on the pedestrian street. So last year it was written the capital of sunset. Now you saw it was written the capital of culture. Before it was culture of youth.
Capital of New Year.
Capital of New Year. Youth, New Year, sunset, culture. Because we have insecurity as Moscow is so close to Nizhny Novgorod and we are less cool than Moscow and we should say that we are more cultural than Moscow. It's not true, but we should say it.
Our country is the centralized country and all the resources are in Moscow and we trying to be like the capital to took something, I don't know, like to be like the capital of Russia. But I think it is not the normal way.
It is hard to live in Russia near Moscow. All the cities in 500 kilometers, probably 1000 kilometers around Moscow, feel the Moscow magnet. Because if you are clever, creative, it is easier to go to Moscow and to make your career there.
in the real capital. You need to be very strong for living in a not capital city.
Nizhny Novgorod is not a capital of anything, and it is full of disadvantages that it can't hide. However, it's definitely a city full of history and stories. A story of how, despite political coldness and differences in mentality, representatives of two nations were trying to build mutually beneficial relations. A story of how citizens voluntarily built their own houses in their free time and believed in creating the bright future for themselves. And young people that don't stop to turn their ideas that can improve the lives of millions into reality. For me, this city will always be remembered as a city of extraordinary stories. I found so many of them here. The only thing I didn't find here is a protected bicycle trail. Ровненько, кокошник.
Please, please, come for us from America. We are so stupid and you are so clever. Please help us. After 1 year in the house. No, you are not communist. Go out. Sorry. Sorry for Americans, but welcome back.
We are 1 kilometer away from downtown and we are in the village. And you're probably asking me, what the fuck is a kilometer? Sorry dude, I'm not gonna tell you. Ciao.
We arrived at this viewpoint. Here is a zone to take pictures and there is a view on the river.
No, stop please. This is an entrance.
So
Exit here.
I can't exit here?
Yes.
So sorry, so sorry.
The official called this place 800 years anniversary park, but some people say that this is Jedi cemetery. Look at that. Rest in peace, Yoda. Ask your boyfriend Lavrov to talk to Putin. We want our taxes to stay here in Nizhny Novgorod that we pay.
All the time I forget to call them so that they consult me, my opinion and opinion of my friends.
I have an idea about
all these guys.
Did you hear what I said? We want our taxes here, stay here in Nizhny.
Yes.
We don't want to pay 85% to Moscow and to region.
But I think you have more relation to Lavrov than me.
He's my boyfriend. I am his. We have to admit that I am the Lavrov's boyfriend. She's not.
I am the Lavrov's boyfriend.
You are not boyfriend.
Do you think that you will ever move from this city or you want to spend the rest of your life here?
No, I don't want to spend my life here.
Where would you go?
Anywhere. Anywhere. to any place.
What things do you like about Nizhny?
My friends.
Anything else?
My wife.
You don't have a wife?
Yeah, my future wife.
I don't like protected bike lanes because we don't have them.
Huh?
Protected bike lanes. Have you ever heard about it?
Ah.
Maybe I would change the mayor, the government, and the all municipal deputies. I said I removed. Oh, no. Закрыто.
So you will have to spend your whole life in Nizhny?
No, you will have to spend your whole life in Nizhny.